Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dadi Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dadi Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dadi Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dadi Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamanatira Vanachadi Jamanatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dadi Gopijana Vallabha Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dadi Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dadi Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Nandana Brajajana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamanatira Vanachadi Jamanatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Astatarasatasya Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaura Premanandi. Well,
could I get you some tea, Mom?
huh?
Could I get you some tea, Mom?
No, thank you. Thank you, but no thank you. No garlands. No garlands because of COVID. Who knows? No garlands. You can give to your deities or put on a picture of Prabhupada or wherever you want, but not any one of us. Thanks. Sorry. Could you inform the other hostess, the other persons that this is our policy? Okay, so just a little something from our first evening, that was yesterday evening. there was a question, an A or B question, and we had a little discussion on it. I wanted to add to that little discussion. The topic, the title of the topic for Friday evening was A Life of Devotion to His Divine Grace. And I started with explaining how a life of devotion begins. And the reference was this very standard verse, Om Agyana Timarandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshudamiritam Nina Tasmai. So we spent some time discussing that verse. And the conclusion of that was when the merciful representative of Krishna comes and opens our eyes, which are in darkness of ignorance, agyana temarandasya, the darkness of ignorance, with the torch light of knowledge, the spiritual master relieves one of that ignorance and gives knowledge instead. And when one feels that relief of ignorance and awakening of knowledge, there's a sense of gratitude. That was our topic. And then there's an A and B question. A, the seed of bhakti, bhakti lata bija, is given by the spiritual master. Or B, the bhakti lata already, or the prema exists within the heart of every living entity, initially in a seed stage and eventually in a fully developed stage. As in Nityasiddha Krishna Prema Sajakabonoi, Bengali. Shavanadi Shuddha Chitte Karye Udoy. Krishna Prema is within the heart of everyone, not just humans, every soul. So A or B. And the devotee from Portland named Paramakaruna, he sent in a text message that from Chaitanya Charitamrita, that verse I just recited says, love for Krishna is already within the heart of every soul, every living entity. And so it's B. And I said, yes, except it doesn't mean that A is wrong. Because here's what A says. This is from, I wanted to cover this topic again a little bit more than just saying A is also not wrong. This is from Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Jiva Goswami's commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Rupa Goswami. Shraddha, faith, which develops for bhakti, is endowed with ruchi or taste. And this Shraddha is none other than the seed of the bhakti lata, or creeper of devotion, which is sown in the heart of the jiva. So that sounds like A. But they're not. How to understand that? It's not that some souls just, they don't have what Lord Chaitanya says they have. They don't have Krishna Prema. And some souls just, they're really fortunate. They get the seed of Krishna Prema from their spiritual master. And then they're fortunate. And unless that, they're just like, I guess a zombie or something. There was I was thinking some more about this from Friday evening. A few years ago, there was a college group from Trinity College, somewhere not far away. Trinity College is a Catholic, Holy Ghost, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, Trinity. So I I was invited to speak, so I spoke. I said, "Do you want us to give a regular class or an introductory class?" "No, give you a regular class. We just want to hear how you do what you do." So I gave an introductory class because I knew the students wouldn't understand. And the professor was an Indian man who has now become a Holy Ghost person, a Father, Son, Holy Ghost. So I asked him. In the course of the question, I asked him a question. Is the concept of Holy Ghost something similar to your understanding, or maybe I can tell you what Paramatma is? And is the Holy Ghost something that is within those of us that are practicing bhakti? Do we have the Holy Ghost within us, or not? And he didn't pause. He jumped on it and said, the way you get the Holy Ghost, I mean, he doesn't use this language, but you accept Christ, and until then, there's no Holy Ghost happening in your life. So I said, what does that mean? Does that mean like I'm a zombie? I mean, I use that word in the class. Am I an eternal spirit soul or not? And he was like, he didn't hesitate. He wasn't feeling stuck. The eternal spirit descends upon you when you accept Christ. So I didn't pursue it. I mean, he's saying, yes, you're a zombie. You don't have a soul. And you're moving around like you're alive, but you're not alive. You're just a zombie. And anybody else before Christ, or anybody, since Christ, they just don't have the Spirit of God acting in their life. Well, so that's not what the meaning here is, that, you just don't have bhakti until the spiritual master gives the seed of bhakti, and then you get the seed of bhakti, and then you can become devoted. What it means is that the sound this is my understanding, the spiritual sound vibration awakens the dormant consciousness of the soul, and that's the seed of bhakti. This faith awakens. It's like a match, and you strike the match, and then the fire that's within the head of the match comes out. And otherwise, the match can just sit in the matchbox for eons, and fire is there stored. So bhakti is there stored, and the sound vibration awakens, and that's the seed. The seed is the awakening of that which is already there. So depending upon how you understand A can also be right. I'll just read it again. Shraddha, which develops for bhakti, is endowed with ruchi. Ruchi means taste, spiritual taste. And this shraddha is none other than the seed of the bhakti lata, or creeper of devotion, which is sown in the heart of the jiva. So shraddha develops, means it's already there. There's a seed that's already there, and that shraddha develops for bhakti by the association of one who has bhakti, and they awaken the seed of bhakti, and it comes out as faith, endowed with ruchi. And that is the seed that is sown in the heart of the jiva. So I hope Parama Karuna is listening, because I wanted to say this specifically in response to the A and B question that we talked about yesterday evening. So now here's another A and B question. Good spiritual qualities. A, spiritual qualities naturally, or even this word automatically. I was thinking, Burijan Prabhu, some of you, at least the listeners, know who Burijan Prabhu is, Prabhupada disciple, wonderful. He and Satchidananda Swami just finished conducting the Govardhan retreat virtually. And I heard it was really fantastic. So he's he's a god brother and a very dear friend. And he wrote a little essay, which I'll ask Nityapriya to remind me to send it to her. Borijan's essay on what does automatically mean. Automatically doesn't mean mechanically. Automatically means in due course of time. In due course of time, qualities awaken. As bhakti awakens, qualities awaken. They're of the soul. And when the soul awakens in bhakti, those qualities follow bhakti. Or Krishna, saying it differently, Krishna decorates the soul with qualities. He's the interior decorator. And he has a big warehouse of nice qualities. And he decorates those who are his devotees with nice qualities. He manifests them within them because he's the source of everything. Although living entities are tiny parts of him, they become richly endowed with qualities by the mercy of Krishna when they show Krishna bhakti for him. That's option A. And option B goes like this. They're not necessarily, if this is right, then that's wrong. And if that's right, then this is wrong. So B says the first and foremost characteristic that is needed to have anything real or spiritual is bhakti. And one who has bhakti wants to come before Krishna and have Krishna smile and be happy. And so they want to cultivate good qualities. So that the horse that's pulling the cart is bhakti, and the cart has good qualities. And so they strive to cultivate good qualities, whatever those good qualities might be, and the eradication of bad qualities. The anarjana vritti effort, unwanted things and awakening of wanted things, is something that one consciously cultivates. And the horse that's pulling that cart is bhakti. So I'm going to advocate B, but not rule out A. Because it's just one way, it's another way of saying the same thing. If you have bhakti, you want to please Krishna. That's what bhakti means. And if there's something that's less than pleasing to Krishna, you want to improve that something. And if there's something that's displeasing to Krishna, you want to eliminate that something. Which is another way of saying that is in the process of surrender to Krishna, there's 6 limbs, and the first 2 are anukulyasya, sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjanam, accepting things favorable to bhakti, rejecting things unfavorable to bhakti. Those are the first 2 limbs of surrender, or sharana, like in Bhagavad-Gita, 1866 Bhagavad-Gita. What's 1866? Any of our persons who are our hosts and hostesses, do you know that verse, 1866? Sarvadharmam aham tvam ma suchaha. Very good. So, sharanam, mam ekam sharanam. Sharana means surrender. Mam ekam, surrender to me alone. Mam ekam sharanam. Mam ekam sharanam. Sharanam means to surrender, and this accepting things favorable, rejecting things unfavorable are limbs of bhakti. It's not the essence of bhakti, it's just a limb of bhakti. It's an attribute of bhakti. One who has bhakti accepts things favorable, reject things unfavorable. And thus, we cultivate good qualities and we try to eradicate the other kind, the unfavorable kind, not favorable to bhakti kind. So, they're not necessarily contradictory. A and B are not necessarily contradictory. They're just different ways of looking at the same thing. That's my perspective, and I prefer saying it in option B because it's an act of cultivation. Bhakti is a cultivation of pleasing Krishna. So if there's something, let's just say, harshness of speech. Now, for your information, there's a course that some of our devotees here and are enrolled in, learning nonviolent communication or empathic communication from Bir Krishna Maharaj, a whole extensive seminar on how to speak in such a way that it's true and honest, but filled with empathy. You're concerned with how it's going to impact the other person. You speak the truth. This is Bhagavad-Gita 17:15. You speak the truth palatably. It's one thing to speak the truth. It's another thing to speak palatably. And sometimes speaking the truth doesn't seem very palatable. So how do you speak the truth palatably? It's a quality. You can have bhakti and not really be a really good communicator. So it's an important quality to develop. It's right in Bhagavad Gita. And so there's a course to teach or to take a step back from that particular application. And some of you know that Canto 7 is spoken by Narada Muni. Canto 7 begins with a scene that's just after the coronation ceremony of Maharaj Pariksit. And during that ceremony, Shishupal lost his life. And because in that ceremony, Maharaj Yudhisthira naturally called upon grandfather Bhishma to speak. And the tradition is to give honor to the most exalted personality in the assembly. So he spoke about Krishna. Shishupal couldn't take it. And so finally he blurted out. And Arjuna was ready to kill him, and Bhima was ready to kill him, and Krishna didn't say, he just stopped them. And after the 100th time of blaspheming Krishna, Krishna released his Sudarshan chakra, and the talking part of Shishupal's head was removed for the rest. And everybody saw it. And they saw the soul of Shishupal rise in the sky and then merge into the body of Krishna. So that was how Canto 7, Chapter 1 begins, and Yudhisthira asks, how is it possible he's such a bad person? That he got liberation? I mean, great sages and yogis and tapasvis and lifetimes of effort to get liberation, and they don't get liberation. He's a bad guy. How do you get liberation? Could you explain? So that's how the canto begins, and the whole canto is explaining it, that question, in different ways. So one of those ways is Narada narrating the whole story of Prahlad Maharaj and Hiranyakashipu and Lord Nrsimhadev and the whole thing. Kayadu and Indra and the whole story. Several chapters. And at the end, which is chapter 10, there's all these prayers. And, that Prahlad says in one of those prayers in chapter 10 that you sent me to this material world to teach the way of pure devotional service. So at the end of that whole section comes chapter 11. And in chapter 11, Yudhisthira asks another question, just like he did in the very beginning, chapter 1. So chapter 11, the question is, wow, Prahlad Maharaj had such wonderful qualities, pure devotee qualities. Could you explain to me how one becomes a pure devotee? That's a good question, right? And keeping it really simple because there's some details, he says, sure, but the path of pure devotional service is best supported by following the Varnashram system. And following the Varnashram system is not possible until you become a human being. And to become a human being, here's a list of qualities. So, and I'll read the list of qualities, Canto 7, Chapter 11. It's a nice long list. All good qualities. So the question is, so that's necessary to be a participant in Varnashram, which is a precursor to bhakti, direct bhakti. Because Varnashram isn't in of itself direct bhakti. It's supportive of bhakti, but it's not in itself standing. Because there's non-Vaishnava followers of Varnashram. There's non-Vaishnava brahmanas. And they're doing duties of a brahmana, but they're not Vaishnavas. There's smarta brahmanas that aren't Vaishnavas, for example, and so forth. So, which comes first, the qualities or bhakti? Sounds like the qualities come before bhakti. Sounds like. Or maybe it's the other way around. Bhakti comes and then the qualities come. So I'm going to read now from Bhaktivinoda Thakur writing about bhakti. And he is speaking, it's not exactly a commentary, but it's explaining from, our version is Nectar Devotion, but Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is describing, same we find in Chapter 1 of Nectar Devotion, the 6 characteristics of bhakti. Yes? And the first 2 correspond with sadhana, and the Sanskrit is Shubha Da, it brings auspiciousness. Shubha Da, and Kleshagni, it eradicates or destroys kleshas, miseries. That's just in the sadhana stage, in the very beginning stage. Misery is diminished, and auspiciousness, Shubha Da. So Da means to give. Shubha Da. Bhakti gives Shubha. And so there's a noun, it's Shubhatvam. It's qualityness. Having qualities. So I'm going to read. This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writing, explaining the Shubhatvam. And he quotes Rupa Goswami. Auspiciousness, Shubhatva, has been described as one of the 6 glories of bhakti. I'll say it slowly, because I'm not really good at Sanskrit. Shubhani, Prinanam, Sarva Jagatam, Anuraktata. Sadguna, that's one of the 6 qualities. Sukham, Iti, Adini, Akyatani, Manishabhi. So that's quoting directly from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which translates, learned sages, that's this Manishabhi, the last word, have described the meaning of auspiciousness, Shubhani, or Shubhatva, as, this is really high, love for the entire creation. Sarva Jagatam Anuraktata. Carrying affection for all living entities. Saintly character. Happiness. Sukham. And other such qualities. So bhakti brings those good qualities. That's Shubhatva. It's a giver of auspiciousness. Shubha Da. Then he writes, the person in whom bhakti has arisen bestows affection to the whole world and becomes the object of attachment for everyone in the world. He effortlessly becomes the recipient of all saintly qualities and attains all types of pure happiness and auspiciousness. Learned scholars have described all these attributes as symptoms of auspiciousness. So that sounds like you become a devotee, and then voila, all good qualities sprout. I know some devotees that don't have all good qualities. You probably also know some devotees that don't have all good qualities. And some devotees even seem to be regressing in their qualities. Or bursts of bad qualities, at least. So, what's going on here? And should our devotees be trained? The answer is yes. Should our devotees be trained to speak palatably? It's a quality that Krishna speaks of in Bhagavad-Gita. It's a quality of goodness, as opposed to harshly. Isn't that a good training for a devotee? Because that will be pleasing to Krishna. It will represent the disciplic succession and the devotees. Because if somebody walks around being really harsh, then it's inappropriate, etc., and other bad qualities. So we want to cultivate qualities for the pleasure of Krishna. That sounds like B, but we can't develop good qualities for the pleasure of Krishna unless bhakti is strong. You can't go developing good qualities without strong devotion to Krishna. It won't happen, or it won't be sustainable. Many years ago, we were conducting a week-long institute, just like Vrindavan, the Institute of Higher Education. So I really liked what Burijan was doing there. So I tried it out in Gitanagari. We called it Gitanagari Institute for Higher Education. It was a week long. Devotees couldn't take time off and stuff for a week, so it became just a weekend. But when it was still a week, the Jai Dvaita Maharaj was one of the guest speakers. And some of you know Jai Dvaita Maharaj is a very interesting personality. So the person who spoke before him was Sureshwara Prabhu, very loving, soft, gentle, Brahminical type person. What he's been doing the last several years is a whole seminar on appreciation of Prabhupada. Very comprehensive, very well done, very profound, very moving appreciation of Prabhupada. So he spoke on the same verse that the next morning Jai Dvaita Maharaj spoke on. So the verse was this verse from the Bhagavatam, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinshana sayar vayar gainais tatra samasate sara, that says, when you become a devotee, the good qualities of the demigods become manifest within such a person, a devotee. And then the opposite, harava bhakta shukuto mahadguna manorate nasati davatobahi, which means hara abhakta, those who are not devotees of Hari, you'll find good qualities. So Sureshwara spoke on the verse. He read the verse purport and said, yeah, actually, there are people that have good qualities. And he gave examples. But in the example that he was giving, I remember it very clearly. He was speaking, he was taking responsibility for a Food for Life program from the farm. They had farm produce and so forth, and they had received donations. So they were going to poor people in the countryside and delivering meals because it was Food for Life. And in the course of doing that, he met some, in his estimation, some really good people. We're okay?
Yeah.
The sound's not good?
It's just that the lighting is going.
Yeah, it's been doing like that. Anyway, you'll sort that out, I'm sure. Okay. So yeah, there's lots of good people, and we find, honestly, sometimes persons that are not practicing Krishna consciousness, they have better qualities than some of the persons practicing Krishna consciousness. Isn't it? Yes. So how do we understand all this? And one of the ways to understand, because then Jayadvaita Maharaj gave class the next morning. Same verse. He didn't know that Sureshwara gave class on the same verse. And he, no good qualities. That's Jayadvaita Maharaj. But so what's a good quality? Good quality is sat. It's not comes and it goes. You accumulate mode of goodness quality and you develop good qualities. And after some time, the stock of good reaction for those good qualities or good activities diminishes and it goes back. Like the Ferris wheel, up and then down. Good quality doesn't come and go. So that which is sat doesn't come and go. It's eternal. So good qualities are eternally fixed. Or the qualities of the soul are eternally fixed once they become supported by bhakti, or that which is connected to Krishna, because Krishna decorates the devotee and protects the devotee. Even if they do something bad. Like Brahma, we've been discussing Brahma's prayers. Interrupting Krishna's pastimes and kidnapping the cowherd boys. I mean, really. And the calves. That was bad. What Indra did was bad. Much worse. He didn't just play a game. He was wanting to kill the Brijbasis and the cows and Krishna. It was really bad. Krishna corrected them both. Because that's what Krishna does. For those who are his devotees, he puts them on a correction course. And it can be slow or quick or whatever it is. But he's there to support and lift up the devotees. We discussed that a bit in the morning class. So, good qualities are something that follow behind bhakti. As bhakti becomes stronger, the potential of having permanently good qualities becomes more and more and more, up to the point of pure devotion, and then they're irrevocable. They don't do like this image is doing. It comes in strong and then fades out. But they're sat, good qualities that are eternal. And a little further sharing is, some of you know Shivara Maharaj, and he has been in the New Vrajadam. They have spent a lot of time and energy, maybe a couple of years, in a very intense way, exploring the Varnashram topic, and it resulted in a book, Varnashram Compendium. And what I'm speaking about, there's some idea like that in that book, because Varnashram has to do with qualities. And there's different qualities according to Varna and according to Ashram, so that's dealing with Varna, that book, not Ashram, but with Varna. And the whole purpose of the Varna system is recognizing someone's quality and trying to elevate. One of the messages in the book is we really aren't going to be able to understand the quality, the Varna of a person, until they become a human. That's the message of that little section of 7th Canto, Chapter 11. Varna will become more clear as human qualities become manifest. So one of the statements in that book is, as much as there are qualities or there are characteristics of bhakti, in fact, I'll just say it this way, there's a very long list, and 9 of those qualities are direct devotional, the 9 processes of bhakti. Those are qualities, human qualities. But there's another 21 that are just like civilized qualities. And the point of the book is, in addition to so much training in how to chant japa, or how to worship the deity, or how to cook in the kitchen, or do different devotional arts, there should be, in ISKCON, training in qualities. They're a strong advocate of that. I remember hearing a class where Shiva Maharaj said, not just at the farm, but the whole of Hungary, the leaders want to do like this, so they were doing. Of those, the qualities listed in this Canto 7, Chapter 11, each speaker in every, whether morning or evening class, had to address that quality for 2 weeks or something like that. So it was, or maybe it was a month, whatever it was. Really focus on quality development. So the whole community, in fact, the whole yatra, the whole of all the devotees in Hungary, were being encouraged to focus on become human beings with this quality, that quality. I'm going to read some of the qualities. Satyam, speaking the truth, without distortion or deviation. That's the word for word, Prabhupada. Daya, sympathy to everyone's suffering. Tapa, austerities, Prabhupada's parentheses, such as observing fasts at least twice in a month on the day of Ekadasi. Shaucham, cleanliness. Bathing regularly at least twice a day, morning and evening, and remembering to chant the holy name of God. Tatiksha, toleration, being unagitated by seasonal changes or inconvenient circumstances. Iksha, distinguishing between good and bad. And so on. This is a long list. There's 21 qualities listed here, and some of them, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, etc., they're direct devotional activities. So these are, a human being will have these qualities. And again, the advocacy is that those qualities should be trained. Of course, for the purpose of pleasing Krishna, not for some other, just to be a good person kind of reason. Being a good person, nothing wrong with being good. Like Sureshwara's talk, good people are good people, and bad people are bad people. But the good people may not stay good so long, depending upon when their piety account starts to get depleted. And conversely. So one other reference, and this is from Chapter 13 Bhagavad-Gita. Same message, Chapter 13 Bhagavad-Gita. Verses 8 through 12, it's response to Arjuna's question, what's knowledge? There's 6 questions. Knowledge and the object of knowledge. Jnanam, Gayam. Knowledge and the object of knowledge. Look closely at the list of items of knowledge, and every one of them is a quality. Because persons who have knowledge have qualities. How do you know if a person has knowledge? They have qualities. How do you know if a person doesn't have knowledge? They don't have qualities. How do you know the person has bhakti? They have qualities. How do you know the person doesn't have bhakti? They don't have qualities. Then that's verses 8 through 12. Chapter 13, verses 8 through 12. And verse 18, Jnanam, Gayam, Jnanagamya, Hriddhi Sarvasya Vishtatam. So there's now 3, not just Jnanam and Gayam, the object, knowledge and the object of knowledge, but then there's the goal of knowledge, Jnanagamya. Prabhupada named disciple, Gyanagamya. Object of knowledge, goal of knowledge. Knowledge is a quality. The knowable, Gayam, that's Krishna. And the goal is to know Krishna. The goal of knowledge is to reach the object of knowledge, which is to reach the goal of knowledge, to know Krishna. That's a symptom of one who has qualities. They know Krishna. And one who knows Krishna will have qualities. Because one who has bhakti only can know Krishna. One who has bhakti will have qualities. But one who has bhakti will want to cultivate good qualities. So Krishna will be pleased. And the society of devotees will be nicely represented. People won't think badly about the Hare Krishna movement because so-and-so has bad qualities. It happens. When people don't know anything about the Hare Krishna movement, but they had a bad experience, they judge the whole Hare Krishna movement. It doesn't so often work the other way around. They have a good experience. Oh, the Hare Krishna people are good. It usually gets, anyway, the tendency is to appreciate the person, not necessarily the organization they're representing. But bad reflects badly on the whole organization. So it's important. It's important to, I don't know exactly, I know that there are devotees, and we're going to be speaking about this tomorrow morning. There are devotees, and it's kind of a theme of what I've been chosen to speak about this weekend. They want to move from intermediate stage of bhakti, or from abhas bhakti towards shuddha bhakti. You got to have qualities. You have to become a human being before you can go further. And if you're not interested in becoming a human being, that is, with good qualities, you're not going to be able to go further. You're still stuck in matter. In chapter 13, it's a Sankhya section. Sankhya means categories of matter, categories of spirit. We belong to the category of spirit. That's Sankhya. When you read Bhagavad-Gita Chapter 2, the first half is Sankhya. Krishna says it. Now I've described Sankhya, now I'm going to describe Buddha Yoga. And Sankhya is there's matter, there's spirit, and we belong to spirit. You're not the body. We're a spirit soul. That's the beginning part of Chapter 2. Then again, in Chapter 7, there's another Sankhya section. Over here, there's 8. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 comprise my separated material energies. That's that one category over there. Then, besides that, there's the soul. And I'm the controller of both. Chapter 7. Little mini Sankhya section. In Chapter 13 is this extended Sankhya section. Each of the questions in the beginning of Chapter 13. Prakriti and Purusha, matter and spirit. Jnanam and Gayam. Jnanam is in the category of matter. Unless it's supported by spirit, it remains in the category of matter. The mode of goodness manifests good qualities, but that's matter. And there's spiritual qualities, and they're substantial. They don't come and go. Field of activities and the knower of the field of activities, matter and spirit. It's Sankhya. So if we want to develop qualities, the horse that pulls that cart is bhakti. And to nourish bhakti, to give support and a nice ground or an atmosphere, an incubation chamber for bhakti to grow is having good qualities and striving, using the same example, not to speak harshly, but to speak pleasingly. Speak the truth, but speak the truth pleasingly, because that's austerity of speech. Otherwise, the tongue can be vicious and can hurt people. Maybe not even intentionally. Maybe intentionally, but even unintentionally. So we don't want to hurt people unintentionally either. So how to speak the truth palatably? It's important in living our lives in the social atmosphere, because we're social beings. We like relationships. It's important to us. So being a good person is important. But it's not just the mode of goodness, good person, because that's insubstantial. It comes and it goes and it moves with time and modes of nature. We want to support it in spirit. And the spirit support is the Bhakti Principle. So back to the starting point, A or B. Well, B, but A is also right. A says, just do bhakti, and when you do bhakti very nicely, these other shubha, auspicious, shubhatva, auspiciousness, manifests just by the strength of bhakti. Good qualities will come. No worries. Just focus on doing bhakti nicely. That's A. And B, as bhakti grows, I recognize, I don't have such good qualities in this area, that area, and I want Krishna to be pleased. And if I come before Krishna with his not very pleasing qualities, Krishna isn't going to smile and be happy. But I want Krishna to smile and be happy. So I want to develop these qualities. So I keep the horse in the front to pull the cart of good qualities. And I consciously cultivate. And I receive training how to cultivate, how to develop this good quality, that good quality. But there's one purpose. And if that one purpose becomes weakened, then everything falls flat, or it becomes, again, material. And that is, develop good qualities for good quality's sake. It's like there's a really nice discussion. It's in the Science of Self-Realization. A discussion between Prabhupada and Professor Durkheim. Professor Durkheim was a very nice man, German. And when Prabhupada would visit Germany, he'd come to visit Prabhupada, and many exchanges. So in one of those exchanges, there's a really celebrated photograph of a morning walk, and there's Professor Durkheim in his nice suit and all the devotees there, and Prabhupada. So Professor Durkheim was making an argument, knowledge for knowledge's sake. And Prabhupada was being gentle and said, no, it's not just knowledge for knowledge's sake. It's how is that knowledge being applied? Towards what end? What's the intention, the objective? And Professor was saying, no, it doesn't matter, just knowledge for knowledge's sake. Mode of goodness, without any direction to it, just mode of goodness. That's mode of goodness idea. And then Prabhupada became a little irritated or, impatient. He wanted him to, get the message. So he became more firm. And anything, how it is used is the essence and not just the thing. I mean, a classic example, I don't recall exactly right now how the example he gave, because Prabhupada would always give examples, but let's just say a surgical knife, a scalpel. It's not good or bad. Depends how it's used. So knowledge isn't good or bad. Depends how it's used. Because knowledge can be used for very, very harmful purposes. Very, very harmful purposes. Technology can be used for very detrimental purposes. It can be used for very beneficial purposes. It's the consciousness behind that. So that's the idea of developing. So as an individual, I can't change the world. I can change myself and make it smaller. I can't change our community, but I can change myself. That's something that's what I'm responsible for. And as I develop myself to the point of having good qualities and strong bhakti, that's going to have some impact on at least those that want good qualities in bhakti. And those that don't want, they may become inimical. That was what we heard repeatedly with Bhaktisiddhanta's life. He had there were at least two that I'm aware of, two explicit attempts to murder him. That's he had his enemies. But his position was these shubha qualities. He had concern for the whole world. He wanted to bring Krishna bhakti to the world, which was a compassionate intention. Prabhupada received that challenge or charge or instruction, and here we are. And where would we be without, the seed of bhakti? Don't think too hard on that one. Not a lovely place. So bhakti is the essence, and good qualities are decorations of that essence. And to be nice, pleasing to Krishna devotees, we should be concerned and strive, not just wait for the good qualities to come, but strive to develop those good qualities one more time so that Krishna will be pleased. And that's why we do whatever we do, so that Krishna will be pleased. That's for a bhakta. That's the heart and soul of a bhakta. Okay. I blabbered for a long time, a whole hour. I'm a little bit enthusiastic about this topic. I wanted to read from Chaitanya. I forgot. I wanted to read from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Adi Leela, Madhya Leela, chapter 22, process of devotional service. A faithful devotee is truly eligible candidate for the loving service of the Lord. This is this faith principle again, Shraddha, that we spoke about earlier. According to one's faith, one is classified as a topmost devotee, an intermediate devotee, or an inferior devotee. A few verses later, a devotee is considered superlative or superior according to his attachment and love. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the following symptoms have been given. Now these are qualities. A person advanced in devotional service sees within everything the soul of souls, the Supreme Personality Godhead Sri Krishna. Consequently, he always sees the form of the Supreme Personality Godhead as the cause of all causes and understands that all things are situated in him. An intermediate, second-class devotee shows love for the Supreme Personality Godhead, is friendly to all devotees, and is very merciful to neophytes and ignorant people. A Prakrita Bhakta, materialistic devotee, does not purposefully study the Shastra and try to understand the actual standard of pure devotional service. Consequently, he does not show proper respect to advanced devotees. He may, however, follow the regular principles learned from his spiritual master or from his family who worships the deity. He is to be considered on the material platform, although he is trying to advance in devotional service. Such a person is a Prakrita Bhakta, neophyte devotee. In this section, this is where this spoken by Prahlad, Yasyasti Bhaktir, Bhagavat, Akinchana, Sire Vair Gunais Tatra Samasate. Samasatesara, all good qualities become manifest. The qualities of a devata become manifest in the devotee. So that, and the qualities are spoken. All these transcendental qualities are the characteristics of pure Vaishnavas, and they cannot be fully explained, but I shall try to point out some of the important qualities. And then here's a long list. Devotees are always merciful, humble, truthful, equal to all. It's like a long list. They completely control the 6 bad qualities. List them. Another verse. Devotees are always tolerant. This is this Titikshava Karunika verse from the teachings of Lord Kapila Dev to Devahuti, the qualities of a devotee. Titikshava, they're tolerant. Karunika, they're very compassionate. Surada Sarva Dehinam, they're friends to all living entities. And so forth. So the one who is a devotee, summary, one who is a devotee has good qualities. And if we want to be devotees, we have to have good qualities. So we want to be devoted, and we should be very conscientious about the qualities that with which we conducting ourselves, actions and speech and interactions with others, the care and quality with which we do what we do. I want to read something. It just came today. Yeah. This is Dinatarani writing something about the qualities of Jamuna. It's nice. She reads something from, or she quotes something from Science of Self-Realization. I'm run past time, so I'll read it tomorrow. It's nice. You want to hear it? Okay. Sorry. This is the quote from Science of Self-Realization. It's Prabhupada. If one protects the tender creeper of devotional service nicely, then gradually it will produce the fruit of unalloyed love for God. Unalloyed love for God means love that is not tinged by desire for material benefit, for mere philosophical understandings, nor for fruitive results. Unalloyed love is to know, quote, God is great, I'm his part and parcel, and therefore he is my supreme lovable object. This consciousness is the highest perfection of human life and the ultimate aim of all methods of self-realization. If one reaches this point, that is, God is my only beloved, Krishna is the only lovable object, then one's life is perfect. And when one tastes that transcendental relationship with Krishna, then one feels real happiness. The devotional creeper will then be so strongly protected that just by catching hold of it, one will be able to reach the supreme destination. If one climbs steadily up a tree, one eventually comes to the very top. Similarly, if one can achieve love of Godhead by catching that devotional creeper, there is no doubt that one will reach the transcendental abode of Krishna and will associate with him personally, just as we are associating here face to face. Then she tells a story of Jamuna having qualities like this, and it's a nice story. Prabhupada was in Los Angeles. She, Jamuna, and her roommate or friend, Dinatarani, were visiting Prabhupada. So they were going from the temple room up the little narrow stairs up to Prabhupada's quarters in Los Angeles. Maybe some of you have been there. While they're going up that narrow corridor, up the steps, Prabhupada suddenly stopped and turned to gaze lovingly at Jamuna, with tears flowing down his cheeks. He casually asked us to describe our ashram in Oregon. The two were living, with an idea of having a ladies' ashram. Jamuna replied, "It is small, Srila Prabhupada, but very clean." Prabhupada said, "That's all right. You can have a small room and clean it very nicely. Put in some flowers and bring an old man like me in, and he'll feel just like a bridegroom." And he laughed loudly and repeated again, "Old man like me." Then he asked, "How much do you pay?" He's still walking up the stairs. "Only $100. Prabhupada's eyes opened widely and he said, "So much? I pay only 5 rupees for my rooms in Vrindavan." These were such sweet and profound times, imprints in my own consciousness, never forgotten or taken for granted. And then, so Dinatari is describing the kind of bhakti that Jamuna had. She's very, so. Jamuna was known for her many wonderful qualities, but for me, the focus and precision with which she undertook each service, whether serving Srila Prabhupada in cooking or cleaning, preparing for writing her cookbooks, rendering services to the Vaishnavas, and the Seva Puja of her beloved deities, Sri Sri Radha Banbihari, were memorable. Her preparation for anything from a simple offering to the deities to grand festivals was focused and exhaustive. She would sit quietly for 1 or 2 hours, beads in hand, then jump up with a full plan at the ready, and preparation would immediately begin. Everything was thoroughly vetted and thought out. Meals and feasts had to be not only prepared well, but color coordinated on the plates. The smallest detail was important. A favorite of mine was seeing her design outfits for deities. After her usual meditation, she would lay out graph paper on a large table and say, "Now let's offer a bumblebee outfit to Sri Sri Radha Bandihari, based on the Brahmara Gita in Srimad Bhagavatam, the song of the bumblebee." And she would begin meticulously designing each piece of their summer and winter variations of a bumblebee-themed outfit. From the very beginning, Prabhupada had carefully instilled within her the devotional imperatives of cleanliness and careful attention to detail in her many services. And she saw, even in Srila Prabhupada's joking quips, a reiteration of those early instructions. So he's giving bhakti, but qualities. And with humor and affection and everything. And she was a very eager recipient. A great, great personality, great Vaishnava with wonderful, wonderful qualities. Okay. So I talked too much. But I believe it's an important topic. I don't know exactly where it's going to go. It would be nice to see some efforts made in the devotee communities, plural, here and there, and focusing on either a quality or, from the many lists of qualities, certain qualities, and seriously taking up cultivating those qualities in the association of those who want to become better devotees. Or, maybe our academic people can make curriculum and help, and our mentors can help people understand the importance of qualities and coach them and help them develop qualities. Or I don't know where the legs are for all of this, but it's important. And I think it depends on individual inspiration, how it can carry forward. But we certainly don't like it. We talk about it when there's somebody in the community that misbehaves. Gets a lot of attention. And how much attention correspondingly is put into ourselves and those who we're closely associated with developing good qualities. I mean, to some extent it's there, but probably we could be doing better. And what it looked like and so forth. It's important to advance. Part of the theme of this whole time I'm spending this weekend is to go from the seed stage to the intermediate stage to the, keep going. Become more qualified to go back to Godhead by pleasing Krishna, and Krishna will take you there. And if there isn't that eagerness to be with Krishna and please him, then guess what? Punarjanma. That's not very attractive. It's not getting better, is it? It's crazier and crazier. What's next? So it's much, much more attractive to think how to please Krishna and how to help others please Krishna, and help one another, those close to you, that you're closest associates that you associate with, to develop qualities that are pleasing to Krishna, and support that and encourage that. And it's the engine that pulls it, the horse that pulls it, is bhakti, not otherwise. So bhakti gets the primary emphasis, but the other qualities, the holistic picture is we need those other qualities in place. Then bhakti will rise naturally in ourselves, and to whatever extent we can be of benefit and service to others, those that we come in contact with. Okay, so let's see if there's some discussion. Do we have a microphone? It's a nice topic, huh?
Very enlightening, Maharaj. Very enlightening, thank you. I had two questions. My first question is, and I'm guilty of this, where let's say there's harsh speech or just exhibition of some kind of bad quality that may result in people distancing themselves from devotee association or the movement. My question is, for those who have received the seed of bhakti and assuming their sincerity, does such experiences cause them to desist from continuing on the bhakti path? Or is it that some other things may be going on?
There's
Combination.
I mean, the trigger could be, some shortcoming on our part or from our side. But the movement away from bhakti has something to do with what's on their side. So something can trigger, but there's something inside that's being triggered. That's something that's unwanted, that's within them. So
my second question is, the honest truth is we're fledgling devotees, so at least I...
yes.
And so the motivation, the internal motivation of pleasing Krishna as we go about trying to develop qualities is weak.
It's fledgling.
And so could you give some, it seems to me that hearing and staying focused on hearing the shelter of the spiritual master or those guiding us is what will keep us.
That's one of the verses we discussed this morning.
Otherwise, it's so easy to get lost in just wanting to develop a good quality or be
Yeah.
a good person
Yeah, it will.
without that.
Jivanti sanmukaritam bhavadiyavartan. That's the line from text 3, Canto 10, Chapter 14. Jivanti means to live, or to dedicate oneself to those topics. Sanmukaritam, heard from the qualified devotees. That's the elevate. That's the Bhagavad Dharma. That's how we become elevated in bhakti, by that dedication to those topics, regularly hearing and applying, living in that sound vibration and bringing it in our hearts. Yeah. Go ahead. Anything else in the room, or we're going to go to online? Okay. You have something? Huh?
Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for coming over here and for your blessings. And for
Thank you for the pins and the flowers.
Thank you, sir.
Hare
Guru
Krishna.
Maharaj, I would like to know, how we can, distinguish our bhakti is mechanical or not mechanical.
Well, there's certainly subjective measures, and there are some objective measures. The subjective measures have to do with feeling, and then the objective measures have to do, let's say, with things like steadiness. I mean, going back to Jamuna Jivana's question, when there's something that triggers you, do you remain steady? I mean, I don't need an answer. You need the answer. And if they're steady, then I'm not deterred from my intention of pleasing Krishna. There may be some setbacks or something unfortunate or whatever. But let me continue according to my capacity in striving to please Krishna. And then that's where steadiness comes. And then, the obstacle or the unpleasant thing or something, circumstance, external, can get amplified. And you remain steady. So that's not mechanical. That's because the mechanical, you just get tossed for a loop. That it's devotional. That despite the circumstance, there's steadiness. So there's subjective and objective measures. And the real, as borrowing from Jamuna Jivana's expression, the realistic picture is we're largely mechanical. Or we're quite neophyte, fledgling. And so there's a fair amount of unsteadiness. But that's standard. That's Madhurya Kandamati speaks of. Anishtata bhakti is what comes before nishtha. And this stage of nishtha, or steadiness, is where anarthas are nearly gone. And if we're here's another subjective one. That is continuing to strive. Because if bhakti isn't strong, if things are going all right, I become complacent. And if things are going well, and I'm not just taking encouragement to do more, but I want to please Krishna more, then it's not mechanical. So when there's some hardship, then there's some slack, there's some, turmoil. Then it's not bhakti. or bhakti is not as strong as it could be. It's more on the mechanical side. Circumstance to dictate your enthusiasm. But ahaitukya pratyata, that's the standard of bhakti. Causeless and can't be interrupted. There isn't something on this end that starts it. There isn't something on that end that stops it. That's bhakti. There's no material cause or material obstacle that can stop it. That is bhakti. Okay? Okay. Now, online.
This from Sachisuta Prabhu, who asks, the austerity of speech says that our speech should not create anxiety for others. Not all truths are palatable. How to present truths that are not palatable without creating anxiety for others?
You have to be Krishna conscious. Otherwise, it won't work. And if you want to, understand more about it, sign up for Bir Krishna Maharaj's course. I mean, we spent we spent 2 whole Gita Nagari retreats on this topic. So please listen to the recordings. It's probably 30 hours worth of recordings to respond to your question.
So Paramarupa Prabhu, I think. Yeah. So a 2-part question on people judging ISKCON by devotees' behavior.
Yes.
Recently, a person was approached for mantra meditation, and when they came to that, the mantra recited would be Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and they immediately related to being an ISKCON thing. And they had an unpleasant experience with ISKCON in the past.
Yep.
Part 1. What could be done if someone had a prior bad experience with ISKCON?
The most compelling is good character or good qualities. And then they can see it's not, the organization isn't an organization of bad experiences or bad qualities. A particular individual and the experience with that individual shouldn't, color the whole organization. Offline, I'll tell you of another, anecdotal, or you can have a direct conversation with Ganga Narayan at his experience at Penn State in encountering somebody that had a bad experience, and it got overcome by his good character. They started to feel very differently about ISKCON. I mean, not about that one experience, but it's feeling very differently about ISKCON because of his character.
Part 2, what to do in this situation? Would you recommend somehow disassociating the correlation between the Mahamantra and ISKCON?
No.
In the beginning stage?
No. That's another, from the people who are critics, that's called deception. Be who you are. Be of good character and be who you are.
Anand Prabhu asks, regarding tolerance, let's say I feel insulted by someone's comment, sarcasm, etc., and I tolerated it. Didn't say anything back, just ignored. But then, because of being a little hurt, there's this feeling in the heart towards that person. Even with empathy, where it comes from, I feel it reduces affection for this person. Please share some thoughts.
Well, there's 2 things, that you're rising above your own hurt and seeing, the spirit soul that's on the other side that may also be feeling some hurt. And their actions or behavior may have something to do with their hurt. Probably does. Doesn't mean some bad behavior. It's okay because they've got some hurt. They're just acting out. But that should be factored in, and so your feelings may be tempered by, spiritual understanding and your own compassion. But keeping a safe distance from somebody that's hurtful may be a proper response to being around a hurtful person. Keep a safe distance. Depends. Depends on you, it depends on them, depends on the circumstance.
Rasika Manjari asks, my question is that such experiences leave a distaste and damaged relationships sometimes.
Yes.
To heal and shift the focus needs time and distance.
Yes.
How does one remain in a community without distance but also help oneself? How does one remain open-hearted to leadership in the community that has failed miserably in one's eyes?
Well, that's a particular application, but take a step back from the particular application, and that is, stress management 101. Life threw rocks at you, and it hurts, and you got the rock in your hand, and you can do different things with that rock that hurt. And, then you toss the rock up in the air and you consider what your options are. Specific about the rock, and specific about the person that threw the rock, and specific about the hurt. You go into a reflective space and consider, one thing for sure, I don't want to depart from my connection with Krishna, because that's everything, that's my life. So let me nourish that. That's an option. I may not be able to do it, I may defer till you have many options about the rock, the hurt, and the person that threw the rock, or whatever the circumstance was that threw the rock. So while you're considering options, first and foremost, nourish that Krishna connection, and then consider what are things that you may make your first step, do something that has absolutely nothing to do with the rock, the person who threw the rock, and the hurt. It has everything to do with your Krishna connection, and do some things that are meaningful to you that strengthen your Krishna connection. And it puts the whole situation in a different perspective. It doesn't you're not numbing yourself, you're just deferring to a later point in time where you're in a stronger space and mood, and you can think of, Krishna can give you the intelligence. What are options that are wholesome, given the rock, the person, and your feelings? There may be something that you need to do right away, but it's not necessarily, the reacting is different than reflecting and making a proper response. In making the proper response, don't depart from your shelter in Krishna, and wishing to please Krishna with your life and your existence, and move further on that path, regardless of, how many rocks and how many people that throw rocks. So you go back to your relationship with Krishna, the cultivation of that in principle. And then, from a position of strength and wisdom, you can decide from options what are some of the things that you can do about whatever it is that threw the rock and the rock itself. So to take that principle and apply it to this particular application. It's not a quick fix. It's not like a cute answer. It's a principle. How to navigate your way through situations like the one that you're speaking about, and there's many of them.
Amar Mataji is asking, is there any relationship between eternal good qualities and our core values?
Well, it depends on how Krishna conscious you are, what your core values are. But, the spiritual core values, yes. And it depends, in pure Krishna consciousness, it depends what realm are you in Vaikuntha, or are you in Ayodhya, or are you in Dwarka, or are you in Vrindavan, and what's your core values has a lot to do with where the mood or bhav of your bhakti.
Part 2 of a question, or second question, I should say. How can one get beyond doubting one's own sincerity and yet not get into the complacency zone?
Well, a good one is keep good association, and ask in good association for feedback. Like, I have a tendency for having blind spots, and you have a tendency, because you know me well, because you're very close and I trust you and you're confidential. Could you share with me what you see? Is there so close association can help you get on track and stay on track. And if someone sees you starting to go off track, they know that they can approach you even if you don't ask. Do you see me heading off track? Generally, if someone's heading off track, they don't even think about it. They're heading for the ditch. So if you have close, confidential, good association, that's the best. That's the best.
Atulya Mataji asks,
And read scriptures with an open heart. That was one of the questions earlier during the day today. Someone gave some feedback also. Keep your heart open to teachings and to feel connection with the teacher of those teachings. Like when you read Prabhupada's books, you're cultivating a relationship with Prabhupada. He'll be with you. You'll dream of him. Some people, he appears in their dreams regularly. He's with you in your heart. Go ahead.
Atulya Mataji asks, Guru Maharaj, on the topic of cultivating good qualities, I have noticed in myself and others that a lot of times bad behavior manifests because there's some basic need that's not been met.
Yeah.
A bad health could lead to restlessness, impatience, and anger.
Or the other way around. Restlessness and patience and anger could lead to bad health.
When that need is addressed, one resumes their normal good behavior. Do you want to elaborate on the connection between our needs at physical and emotional level with manifesting qualities and hence our spiritual life?
Well, no, not really. I wouldn't. I mean, elaborate is life. But just I could speak in principle, and in principle, Advaita Chandra and Krishna Priya are really strong advocates of a holistic approach. I mean, they use that term all the time. A holistic approach to bhakti. Not just this or just that. So emotional, physical, spiritual, etc. needs, social needs, those are all needs. And the holistic picture, this is really what balance is all about. It's how you utilize your time and energy and in moving forward in a holistic picture of your life, with bhakti at the center, but the other requirements are there. I mean, again, Vir Krishna Maharaj's main theme in his whole seminar for 2 Gita Nagari retreats was exactly your question. So go back and listen to his recordings. I didn't attend his classes, and I picked up on it because there are all these charts all over the place. So go back and listen to his presentation. I think you'll get it. Go ahead.
From Sri Padma Manjari Mataji. What happens when one chants but the mind is unsteady? It seems mechanical, but is there some benefit?
Oh, yeah.
How can one have a steady mind in an unsteady state while chanting?
I don't think it's going to happen. The benefit is Abhas Bhakti, and we read about it. Abhas, Namabhas. There's great benefit. So keep chanting even when you're distracted. But strive to become not distracted. That's when you advance further and come to the stage where you're not distracted. When you're attached to Krishna Maya Saktamanak Partha.
Just for clarification, that original question I asked you was from Atulya Mataji, not Paramu.
Okay.
From Amol Bakshi. Can someone who does not follow all 4 regulated principles still be considered by us to be a good person?
Yeah. Bhakti is the consideration because that person that's not following, with bhakti, they'll come to the place in time. Krishna will help them come to that place in time.
Puja asks, when we're trying to cultivate some good qualities and we seem to be getting somewhere, are we to understand this is actually just a shadow of real good qualities that follow Shuddha Bhakti?
Yes.
But since our striving is pleasing to Krishna, this is Bhakti?
Yes.
Sanchari Mataji asks, how do we understand and accept our own shortcomings? Second question, when we're being self-honest and reflecting, what is the key to actively transform those reflections into actions that show growth?
Well, this topic is a topic that you have shared your own reflections about understanding shortcomings and how to overcome those shortcomings. And it requires purification to understand anything properly, and good teachings and good teachers to understand what Scripture says, as well to understand yourself. But sincerity is imperative for advancing in bhakti at all. And when you're sincere, Krishna will help you. Let's say differently. Supposing you're not even close to understanding some shortcoming that you have, and someone even close to you points it out, it's not going to go in. Or you're like, what? I don't see that. Really? You see that? It's not like necessarily you're going to start feeling guilty or do a cover-up or something, but purification, gradual purification is necessary in order to see what our shortcomings are. And again, a similar comment, keep good association. And the good association isn't going to shock you with, dumping on you. These are all your shortcomings. They'll be accepting of you, but they'll also help you understand and help you overcome. So good association is one of the best remedies for understanding and then working on. Then hold yourself accountable to the good association people and work on it.
Anand Prabhu asks another question. Bhakti means intention to please Krishna from the heart. Now, while doing duties, chores, etc., even though keeping an intention to please Krishna, how do I really know that I'm doing bhakti and not really doing what I want to do and just doing that with remembrance of Krishna?
Well, you're probably doing because you like to do it. I mean, that's just a safe assumption. Not you, it's just us. We do things we like to do because things we don't like to do, we're not so inclined to do them. That is to say, we're mixed devotees. So just start with that assumption, we're mixed devotees. And then you can focus on, not so much, you like the question, how do I know? I mean, you know if you're, when you're feeling full, then you've eaten enough. And when you're feeling the satisfaction of sincerely pleasing Krishna, you'll know. Because the other, the other attractions will subside.
I almost missed my wife's question.
How many?
Just one.
Huh?
A long one. In a seminar that Bir Krishna Maharaj gave in Chicago in 2018, he quoted a research that 80% of persons in religious organizations are less empathic than persons that have no religious affiliation. I know research findings should be taken with a grain of salt and
Yes.
certainly cannot be generalized across the board.
Yes.
Yet, I'm curious if you would comment regarding whether there is inherently something about the quality of empathy, about the four types of individuals that approach God, the distressed, the inquisitive, etc., or whether there is something within the process of following a religion like ours that has extremely high standards of purity that sometimes hardens the heart.
My understanding is paucity of empathy has to do with a neophyte stage. Or conversely, a more elevated person is by nature compassionate. So, I don't think it has to do with, the four reasons. I think it just has to do with a more immature or neophyte position. Now, some persons may exhibit within or without an organization. If you have empathy, you want to align yourself with others who have empathy. The cruelty to animals people want to align themselves with the cruelty to animals people, and so forth. I think I've answered. My sense is it has a lot to do with the neophyte status. That is to say, someone that's not yet spiritually evolved, but they don't like the suffering of material existence, so they try to move towards something that's beyond the suffering of material existence. And they're spirit. This is my sense. That's a neophyte stage, and with that neophyte, the real compassion or empathy is weak. Go ahead.
Puja comments, I want to express my appreciation for your kindly choosing this topic. Especially for me, this is something I've been thinking about.
Okay, I'll just do one more question. I'd like to end because of time.
This is from Sundar Gopal Prabhu. Guru Maharaj, this is really a very good topic. I like the idea of identifying the lack of qualities and consciously trying to cultivate them. What practical steps we should take towards this? One thing you mentioned about is Bir Krishna Maharaj's seminar. Anything else can help?
Yeah, here's two other something else's. Brajabihari just, for the new year, gave a seminar. You can find it under GBC Strategic Planning Team videos. Brajabihari's seminar on changing qualities or improving qualities or something like
Changing habits.
changing habits. So you can Google that one, GBC Strategic Planning, Changing Habits. It's less than an hour. It's not exhaustive. It's not everything, but it's something. And it's, it's bullet point kind of assistance. And a second one is, I haven't read it, but it's an expensive book. But Shivram Maharaj presented this in this Varnashram compendium. I asked him before this weekend, is there an electronic version available yet? He said no. We have to sell the hardcover books, but it's a nice book. And if you want to order it in the USA, it's only $50-something. I said, Maharaj, it's too expensive. He said, oh, people in America, they can. So there's a resource. Varnashram Compendium, Shivram Maharaj, Lal Publications. And hopefully, some of the devotees who are getting this training with Bir Krishna Maharaj, at least in terms of empathic speech or empathic communication, will do a little seminar on that, for the devotee community, or sign up for his seminar next time. It's going to be cycled around and again. You can sign up. Those are some resources. There's probably many others, but Braj Viharis is probably the easiest. It's less than an hour, and you take some tips and move with it. Okay, that's it.
There's one more.
One more.
Lingaraja Prabhu asks, when we see some good qualities in people who are not devotees,
Yeah.
how do we look at them and how do we appreciate them?
You should appreciate them and recognize that, and they will come and go just as the seasons come and go. Time will move that good quality into some other space, or the bad quality will be moved into some other space, at least potentially. So you can appreciate, here's a pious person with some pious quality, mode of goodness, pious quality. And with that person, you can consider they may be a good candidate for hearing some devotional topics or Krishna topics because they're in the mode of goodness. Okay? Haribol. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.